Yes, we do.
All right, we are live now. Hello, everybody. This is the Atheist Republic Hangout, and today's topic is coming out as an atheist. And it's great because we have so many people from many different backgrounds and different locations today. So we get to see how it is in different locations. I myself, when I became an atheist, I was in Iran. So for me, when I came out as an atheist, I was young and a bit stupid, and I didn't realize how dangerous it could be to speak about my atheism. That's why my parents were a bit eager to send me here to Canada, and they were so that I could say whatever I want. But eventually,
I think it was very tough there in Iran.
Yes. Okay. Anyways, so let's go through different people here. Who wants to? Actually, Nirav, when you became you were always in the United States, weren't you, or were you in? Oh, we have Makisha.
Hi.
That's great. Hello. Okay, I'm gonna leave. I'm a horrible host, so I'm gonna let Makisha do her thing instead of me.
Okay, sorry everybody. I don't know what's wrong with my computer. I'm going to be on my phone, so hopefully my hand holds out because I'm just holding my phone here. Okay, welcome. Hi.
Hello.
You're jumping in after the call's already started. So I had a question actually to start off for everybody today, just to kind of get to know everyone, which let me scroll through and see who's all here. Sorry, Michael. Okay. All right. So my question for you to start off is, when you were younger and in school, like elementary age, what was your favorite thing to do on the playground? And let's start with Armin.
My favorite to do. Actually, I was kind of like an introvert, and I didn't have many friends. I would just go and be by myself, alone. So I don't know if that's a very.
What did you do when you were off by yourself? Did you read or?
I had this other introvert buddy that we played chess with a couple of times. Other times, I was a weird kid. I would just go around pretending to be like this, I don't know, superhero in ancient times, and pretending my school is a castle. And so I don't know if anybody wants to hear about that.
That's awesome. I don't think that's weird. That's very normal. Okay, Varki, how about you?
I think it was pretty much the same for me. I was not quite as introverted, but I used to sit alone most of the time because I was not into a lot of physical activity. I just mostly I just sat in the library and read. That's it.
How about Michael? Don't forget to unmute yourself.
Sorry, everybody. I'm being a complete noob. Sorry, could you repeat the question, please, Makisha?
What is your favorite thing to do when you were elementary age, like at school on the playground?
Charging round, chasing other kids, playing tag, hiding around corner of buildings, jumping out on my friends, just normal everyday kid stuff really, and sort of pretending, same sort of thing really, just pretending to be a soldier or a superhero or an aeroplane or anything really, anything.
Emmer, can we hear you? I'm not sure. Can everybody see my video, by the way? Because because I can't see myself, so for some reason. So hopefully it's all good. Okay, you'll have to let me know if my hand starts to drop.
We can see you, yes.
Yes. Amer.
Yes, can you hear me this way?
Yes, now we can hear you. What did you like to do as a kid?
Yeah, I used to dream to be a soccer player and such things. I did not read so well. I was just a simple kid. I wasn't really. I did read, but not like these books I read now. I used to think that I'm a well-educated person. I love to read. I love to play. I was hopeful. I hoped to be a soccer player. That's what I was in elementary school.
So you played a lot of soccer?
Yes.
That's great. There's a lot of kids who play soccer around here too. Todd, how about you? What did you play when you were a kid?
We did a lot of freeze tag kind of thing. Kickball was popular, but whenever we weren't doing any kind of big overall class activity kind of thing, I would get in the swing and see how far I could jump out, or see how high I could get the swing before you drop, and kind of like similar to Armin, I would that kind of creative play, just. We were soldiers, superheroes, all that kind of thing. So it was just it was just about just using our imaginations and having fun. It was cool.
Cool. Nirav, how about you?
Well, my school was in the middle of the city of Bombay, which means we didn't really have a genuine playground. We just had to play in the building itself, which made it very easy to play a lot of games where you have to hide, and then you get to talking to your best friend. And then you forget that the bell rang and you missed 2 classes, and so you come back and everybody's wondering where the hell you've been. So that was a really fun time, a fun way to spend a day in general.
Awesome. Surisha, what did you like to do when you were a kid? Don't forget to unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi. I was particularly an introvert as a kid. I had a couple of friends, and mostly my friends were amongst the boys. I was sort of a bully in a way, so I used to like bullying around and having fun in that way. But yes, I had this very best friend, and both of us were real big pranksters. So we used to go around, play pranks on children. And as I grew up, I sort of took a liking to basketball and football, but I wasn't really at the professional level. I never really played for the team or anything. But yes, as a hobby, I used to like to go outdoors, and we used to have these. We call them gully games. So there are traditional gully games where the colony of children, because I grew up in a colony. So we used to gather around in the evenings, the bunch of kids in the same street, and then we used to play we used to have lots of open spaces in this eastern city called Bokaro. So we used to go there, play lots of games with stones. You need to just pile up a bunch of stones, hit them, and by the time someone just piles them back, you need to and they throw the ball at you, and if it hits someone, it basically you're out of the game. So small games like that. Small games like that, and basketball and football played a very important role at that point in time. But yes, coming from India, I also love watching cricket, and it's World Cup going on, so we're all drowned in the cricket fever these days.
That's right. I know nothing about cricket, but I saw an ad for it, so I know it's happening. And that's about the extent of what I know. Alessandro. We've got a big group here today. It's great.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome.
Thank you. Well, when I was young in the school, we were just playing games like hide and seek, or we have a game in Italy called 1, 2, 3 Stella Star, which someone facing the wall have to count till 3. Then you have to move fast and try to get to him, but when he turns around, you don't have to move. If you move, you're out, and things like this. So we were just basically making some small games, but sometimes I remember that I was not playing and I was alone in a corner because I really like to read. So I was reading. When I was small, people were very impressed because I was reading already very serious books when I was already very small, and I was reading history books or science books, things like this. But when I was outside the school, then I grew up in a place surrounded by forest. So with my friends, we were always in the forest and playing and be creative, make games every time different, create our own little stone houses and a lot of stuff like this. I grew up in a very nice place near the sea, in the woods, and it was very nice.
That's great. Thank you. Barky,
You're welcome.
let's see, where are we at here? Sorry. Anybody? I think we got everyone. I'm scrolling through. Barky snuck in at the end of my list, so I've got him again popping up. All right. Thanks, everybody. That was cool. I did a lot of the same things. I liked playing on the playground equipment. I also did a lot of reading. I preferred having just kind of one or two close friends, and as it is kind of still today. And so we would hang out and talk and read and be boring mostly. But the reason why I thought of this actually is because one of my kids loves the monkey bars so much that she's constantly getting calluses and blisters all over her hands, and that's something that I think I watch and I just marvel at, because it looks so simple and sort of boring to put yourself through that discomfort, because she's always like, blisters on my hands and they hurt. She's not so much lately because her hands are getting really tough, but I always think that's such an interesting choice, for something to do. And then I have another kid who loves playing pretend, or when she was younger, imaginary play. So this sort of ties into what we're talking about today, but it was mostly a fun little get to know you exercise. I wanted to start off with just sort of opening up the floor to anybody who wanted to share their coming out as an atheist story briefly. Just sort of maybe a little bit about how you came to the realization that that was where you were at in your life as far as your belief systems, and then how you shared it with other people. Was it a formal process? Was it just sort of in conversation? Was it a process, or was it a one-time sort of revelation? So because it's such a personal thing, I don't want to just call on people. So anybody who, you could just sort of lift a finger or whatever if you want to share maybe a little bit about your story and how people reacted to that.
You mean how we became atheists?
More how you let the people in your life know that you were an atheist, as opposed to maybe what you were before. Or even if you had always been, just sort of how you vocalize that to people and what their reactions were.
Can I talk?
Yeah, sure.
Well, for me, in Italy, religion is a very important thing, and so my grandmother, she is very religious, and I remember when I told her that I was not religious, she didn't spoke with me anymore for a while. So it's very tough to say to someone that you are not religious. In my country, you don't get killed, but people look at you differently. I remember that when I was small, I had to go in the normal school and then also in the school of the church. And I hate that so much because I didn't like to go to the church to the real school, so I really didn't like to go to the church and to the school of the church. And I also had to be, I don't know how you call that in English, but I had to be one of those little guys that goes and help the priest in the church. So luckily it never did nothing to me, but but so I had to study a lot, and this, for me, nonsense, because we were reading these books and I couldn't find any sense in that. And I was always questioning all of this, and my priest, he was very angry at me all the time, and he was calling my parents. And I remember once I told him, we were talking about heaven, hell, the devil, and all these kind of things, and then suddenly I asked him, but why is the devil the bad guy? And he was like, because in the Bible is written so. And I was like, yeah, but for me, logically, if you look at the story, God killed millions of people, and the devil killed only 10 people because God told him to do so. And he's taking away the bad people, so he should be the good guy, not the bad guy. Because if he was the bad guy, he will just take the random people good people away without any sense. And I was around 8, I think. And he was very angry that day at me, and he called my parents, and my parents, they apologized to him because of that. And it made me even more angry. And anyway, for me it was like a process. It started by questioning everything, because I always been a person that I need proof to see that something is real. So when I was 12, it was the very first time that I said, I don't believe in God. I remember, and I said this to my family, and they were not happy. And yeah, then it just started like a journey that it's keep going. Now I identify myself like an atheist. I'm sure of in what I believe. I cancel my baptized, which I'm very happy, because for me it was a sign that I'm free. I'm an independent person, I have freedom, and I can choose for myself. And a lot of people, they told me, but if you don't believe in God, why you want to do it? And they don't understand that for me is a violence that they do on a small child, where they cannot even decide when to take a dump. Sorry for this, but for me, baptized is wrong, and I want to cancel it, because like to show to everyone that I'm an independent person, I'm free to decide for myself.
Thank you, Alessandro. That's awesome. So how does your family respond now? Is it just sort of you don't talk about it, or is there still animosity about that?
Well, I came from the south of Italy, and in the south of Italy people are very religious, and some people are still mentally like 50 years ago, like my grandmother. My father, he became Buddhist like 5 years ago. So now he accepts what I am, but he don't like me to talk about it. Every time I try to talk with him about religion, he just tells me to don't speak. Not rude, but he say just I don't want to listen, things like this, I don't care, which is not nice for me, because my father is very important for me, so I would like to talk more with him about this. With my mother, she's religious, but she never been that much religious. I think that when me and my sister, we were small, we were going much to the church just because everyone was doing that. You know, it was like how it should be in Italy. So, but they never been anymore in the church, and now we don't talk about that. I mean, with my mother also, she said that she believes in a God, but she never go to church or something, so we don't really speak about it.
I think that's really a common sort of reaction for families to have, is just to if we just don't talk about it, then it's not a problem. It's that whole don't talk religion or politics at the dinner table sort of attitude, I think. I think sometimes it's hard for parents to make that transition from child to fully individuated adult. And I find that the process of parents kind of coming to terms with their kids having their own ideas about things to be fascinating to observe as a parent myself, whose kids are still rather young, 12 and 9. So just that process now as an adult child to watch in my own family and my friends' families is interesting. Does anybody else want to share their sort of coming out story, or
I would like to say one more thing, sorry, if I can.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
My sister, she thinks I'm stupid. She told me that I'm stupid because I don't believe in God.
As in ignorant, or?
Not just like, she just told me, you are stupid that you don't believe in God.
Mm.
But I have no good relation with her, so we don't speak much. And my father once, when he was very Buddhist, he told me, because we went to visit my grandmother, and she was always talking to me about God, about the saints, Jesus, blah, blah. And then one day she told me, I want to bring you to the church. And I said, no. And then she was like, why not? And I was like, yeah, because I don't believe in God. And she stopped to talk to me, I told you. And then my father was very angry at me because then after I spoke with her, I say, Grandma, I'm real. I love you. I'm here. You can touch me. And you cannot prefer something invisible to me. And she said, yes, I will always prefer him to you. That was really hurting for me. And my father told me, you cannot tell her that you don't believe in God. And I said to him, no, that's what I am. If she loves me, she will accept him for what I am. That's all that I wanted to say.
I thought your comment about I'm real, you can touch me, I'm here, I can talk to you, your God isn't, are you going to choose that over, I mean, even if you concede that she obviously believes God is real, there is no physical contact there, and here you are, family, and she's going to choose that over a relationship with you, which is I think a common hurt that a lot of and not just people who leave a religion and choose atheism. Obviously, we have to acknowledge that this happens to people who just switch religions too. People who go from one religion to another. People who abandon certain, firmly held beliefs within the family. This is a common thing that I think people experience in general. But it's good to I think share our stories with each other and also let people know that it can be really painful for atheists to, even when it's safe and they're not going to experience legal ramifications or even threats on their life in their own country, it still can be a very difficult thing to experience. Does somebody else want to share some of their experiences with revealing their atheism, or I don't know, does anybody have to still go to religious services occasionally, even the Christmas, Easter ones, for the benefit of family?
Can I speak?
Or fast or anything like that?
Can I speak?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I want to share my story. Actually, when I was in school, I had my doubts about religion. Actually, I was brought up in a religious school, which is the case of almost all the schools in my country. They all are religious. I had my doubts, but I didn't have the courage to follow them. I even visited Mecca. I prayed there. But only when I was in the university, I only graduated 2 weeks ago, so it's recent, so 3 years ago. I entered the university. I started back then, I only started to think to actually, I got in contact with the minority of Christians in my university, so I started looking out at other cultures. That's how I became secular, because I believe that they're humiliated here, and they don't receive the rights. I actually started to look at Islam in a different way, especially when I started reading in it, and I saw the case of women, the case of minorities in Islam. I only became an atheist 1 year ago, and actually, I still can't tell my family about that, because in Jordan, an apostate. Okay, in Jordan they don't kill them. It's not like in KSA or Afghanistan or Egypt, but it's still a threat. I always receive threats on Facebook. My Facebook, I had to cut off many of my friends because they threatened me. I was brought up in a religious school. Actually, the religious teacher, he bombed himself in Syria. Actually, I remember him 2 years ago. That was one of my teachers. So my friends are kind of like-minded. It was really tough for me. And so far, I still can't tell my family about this. Only my father, he had doubts that I am not practicing religious. He does not know that I'm an atheist or apostate. He only knows that I'm not practicing anymore. So he actually promised me to buy me a car. Now, because of that, he said, no, you don't practice your religion. I'm not happy with that. I'm not giving you this car. And if he found that I'm an atheist, he will have no problem in kicking me out of the house. Maybe to me it's not really a problem, because I'm a guy and I can work, I can find another place to stay, but it's a disaster to the people who are under my age, or to girls actually, in this society. The problem is not only a social one, because like in the laws in my country, if they found out what they call it, apostate, I hear this term, but they call it apostate. If they find this out, they will seize my money, as the law says. They will seize my money because I'm an apostate. They seize my money. If I was married, they will divorce me, and they will will prevent me from the custody. And actually, there were people who were jailed because they are atheists in Jordan. Still, least worse than what happens in KSA, for example. They'll be killed, with no doubt about that. So it's too hard in our countries to say that to come out to say I'm an atheist. I only tell my friends. I had my privacy options on Facebook to post whatever I want. My family, who are the closest ones to me, I'm actually losing them one day by another. Actually, whenever I talk to my father, he keeps mentioning religion. He's not happy. He doesn't want to talk to me. This is what happens when you're a Muslim in this country. That's my story. If anyone wants to ask me, I think about it.
Thank you. Are there any questions that anybody has for Amr? I know it's a different situation than most of us experience. So.
Amr, a lot of people that bring this up in the AR discussion group say, why don't you just get out then? Why don't you leave the country you're in? It seems to be a simplistic question people like to answer. Have you got an answer for that?
Why don't I leave my country?
Yeah, a lot of people seem to think that the obvious answer to that is just drop everything and leave your country. And it's a question that's often asked. I'm just wondering, it might help people to hear an answer to that.
Yeah, I have to do this, and I will do this, but it's kind of difficult to have the immigration. It's not that easy. I want to. Okay, I will lose my family. I won't see them again, but it's okay. I want to live a peaceful life. I'm a peaceful person. I want a peaceful life. I want to feel happy. I want to live in peace. I want that, but it's too difficult to get this. You know, if I want to get a green card in America, it's too difficult. Actually, in Sweden and Canada, it's too difficult. It's not that easy. But if I have the chance, I would say no. I'm trying actually. But there will also some things that I will have to give up. My family, my friends here. Some of my friends accept who I am. I'm not proud of being a friend of a person who does not accept this or who wants to put religion between me and him in such a relationship. But it's okay to me to leave, but I can't leave.
So how does that make you feel that you'd lose so much, even though you gain freedom to be who you are in a new place? How does it feel that that will be the cost to you?
I would like to give it up, but it's okay. I know there are some costs. I told you, my friends, my family, but it's okay. It's more of a freedom. I know I'll give some things up, but it's okay, because the gain is gonna be more. Actually, living in peace is too important. It's more important than having friends and threats every day. I receive threats from Facebook on regular basis, just because I'm an atheist. One of my friends had to run away. He actually was invited to a debate, and he went there, and there were 4 guys who tried to kill him. He ran away. That happened 1 year ago. It happens here. So yeah, there are some things to cost and give up. There are some costs, and I have to give up some things, but it's okay. Living free and peace is more important.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think that's such an unfair question too, because you kind of want to turn it around on them and be like, "Oh, why don't you just leave your country? How about tomorrow? I just say, just pack up and leave if you don't." I mean, it just.
Yeah, I think it's an unfair question as well. I mean, the main reason that I asked it was it keeps cropping up all the time.
No, for sure, yeah.
And it's kind of like every time I see it asked, I think it's a stupid question. Why are you asking this? It's an unfair thing to ask, but.
I don't think it's stupid. I don't think it's stupid. I told you, I'm trying to, but it's difficult. You can't get the immigration easily. Yeah, I'm trying to. I want to pack. I told you, some people can't just pack. Some of my friends are trying to leave. Some of my friends can't leave. They say, we love our families. We can lie to them and live, but we can't lose them. To me, I told you, in my case, I can lose them to live in peace. But, some people, they can't just lose their families. They say, okay, we will lie to them. We will give up much of our freedom just to live beside the ones who brought us up, the ones who love us, ignoring the fact that if they know that they're atheists, they might kill them. In Jordan happened that families killing their sons and daughters because they're atheists, but they don't just say that in media, but it's what happens. They're my friends. I know that.
And
So
you
yes,
mentioned,
it's difficult.
you briefly mentioned something I think that's really important to consider, which is that there are socioeconomic factors at play with why people can or cannot come out as atheists or can or cannot leave their countries. And there's also the matter of, in a lot of these places, being a woman is an automatic disability for living your authentic self, and they don't have, it's already hard enough being a woman and abiding by the religious expectations of your culture, than to be a woman and actually try to rebel against that is almost impossible in some places for some people. And so those, I think those are important things to consider as well, that the journey toward living your true self, and if is not always as easy as a lot of people like to make it sound. And being an atheist is not as easy as a lot of people might think. It's not just about, you know, being a badass rebel who refuses to accept what the majority of the people believe or whatever. You know, there's a lot of thoughtful considerations that people have to put into play in their lives, and I think that's important for people to understand. Does anybody have any other questions for Amer, or have any part of their story that they would like to share?
I just have one quick comment. A lot of people, you know, I don't think that's a stupid question, because a lot of people with their Canadian and their US and their European passports, they get to travel so easily wherever they want, so they assume it's the same for everybody else. But they don't understand that with an Iranian passport or a Jordanian passport or an Egyptian passport, you don't have that much mobility. You can't just leave your country anytime you want. It's really hard to get a visa to go to other countries.
Well, I think it's a stupid question in that it betrays a lack of engagement with the matter at hand. I don't mean stupid in the sense that they shouldn't ask it, but it betrays a certain ignorance. There's nothing wrong with being ignorant, but there's a certain lack of engagement with the actual issue that you're discussing by. And it's not a question. It's usually phrased as an accusatory, rhetorical question, as in, if you don't leave your country, then just shut up about how bad it is. Because if it was so bad, you would just leave. So that's more of what I mean. If somebody's sincerely asking, okay, what are the legitimate hurdles you have to face to leave your country? That's a sincere question. So I think what Michael and I were saying when we were saying it was kind of a stupid question is that it does betray a certain ignorance and lack of engagement with the real world issues at hand. So just to qualify that, because no, I mean, I think if it's a sincere question, then of course it's not a stupid question, but that's what I meant when I made that assertion. But that's a good point. Armin, you make a good point that there are absolutely legitimate issues, and if the question brings those answers forth, then it's a great question.
Yeah, I'd echo the same clarification. That's basically where I was coming from. I see the question asked in that rhetorical way very often as a kind of, I'm shutting you down and moving on to another issue kind of question.
Yeah, that's usually how I hear it too, because I think most people, if they're asking legitimately, they phrase it in a little bit of a different way.
Yeah, can I just add
another
point, another comment?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, some of my friends usually say, okay, we are atheists, but why should we leave our countries? Okay, I was brought here. Okay, it's an Islamic state, but I have the right to stay in my home and practice whatever I want to practice. Okay, me as Amer, I say, okay, I want to leave and live a peaceful life. Some of my friends say, no, why would we leave? We have the right to live, and we want to stay here, even though they have some of them have foreign passports like Americans or Canadians, but they still want to live in their country. They say we were born here and brought up here, and we will live here. We have the right to do this. Not all of the people want to leave. Some of them they actually criticize and blame, but they want to stay and make things right. And they sometimes sacrifice their freedom and their security, being safe. So this question is actually crucial. A lot of people ask me this, and in every atheist case, he has a different reason to stay or to leave. Some of them want to leave, but it's hard to them. It's hard on them. Some of them don't want to leave, and some are already left. That's the point.
That's
I have no
admirable.
problem in this question. No, it's okay to ask it.
I would say that's admirable that there are some people that they try to change things, but it's hard to change things when you live in a theocracy, in a place where religion is so deep into politics and government.
Yeah, it is a very I respect people who stay in places and try to make change, especially when it's so ingrained in the culture and the government.
Yes, it's too difficult. Okay, it's way too difficult. But some people they just don't want to leave. Actually, every day I wake up in the street, I be disappointed. Every try to a debate, I be disappointed how people react to it. It's really disappointing. But some people are still trying, and I still try. I see no hope out of this, but I have to do my part and try to change people. And I do this. I post in 2 pages who are atheist pages. I post there. I try to change things. It's too difficult and it's disappointing, but I have to do my part. There's my point. I have to do my part. Actually, it's too dangerous, not just difficult. Maybe you heard of the case of Raif Badawi, he was lashed just because he was liberal. He wasn't atheist. He was just liberal in KSA. It's not just difficult, but it's dangerous. But there are people who accept this in order to do their part in their societies. I post under a fake account in these pages, but it's somehow I don't like to be. I call it somehow coward. I don't like to be this way, but I have to do this. I don't like to hide my thoughts, but I sometimes have to do this. It's difficult. Maybe talking about it's not like running away from people. I actually myself, I don't like to hide my thoughts. I have the right to speak whatever I want. When I believe in something, I'm proud of this. But I found out it's really difficult to do that, especially when I live. Actually, also in my university, there were the religious party who threatens everybody there, who win the elections in the student communities. So I had to be careful. I was afraid if I come out to people and say that I won't receive my certificate, for example, that was maybe the least worst thing that could happen to me. In Jordan, I could be just jailed easily just because talking about this in public. So it's really dangerous to not just difficult. And sometimes leaving the country is also difficult, as I said.
We have quite a few people at Atheist Republic who write using pseudonyms, and the main reason that people give me for that when they send me their information, especially if they're from North America, is that they work in academia, or they work in government, or they work in education of some kind, and they have legitimate concern that if somebody finds out that they are an atheist and writing about things, that they'll lose their job. And it's when you compare it to losing your life, it sounds small, but let's be honest, we all have to have money to live, and we have to have jobs to make money, and losing your job is a very serious issue. And when you've worked your entire life and maybe gone through 6 years of education or more to get to where you are, it's no small thing to be persecuted in your work environment. And it's not paranoia. I mean, people have experienced this repeatedly, simply by saying they're an atheist, not because they are doing anything aggressive or wrong or anything, just because people really do have a generally poor opinion of people who call themselves atheists. Todd, how about you? How's your family? What's your family like? Or is there anything that you feel free to share?
My family is a little bit more accepting, I guess. I live in the South. I live in the buckle of the Bible Belt, so that has its own unique challenges. But I guess historically, I mean, I come from an evangelical Protestant denomination. My nephew went from he's a Catholic. Most of my family is a sort of, they kind of go on special occasions. They're the Christmas and Easter kind of thing, and it's really not a big huge topic in my family. Which whenever I was in the church, it was really really a strong, outspoken proponent of Christian apologetics and that kind of thing. That was an issue for me. But being an atheist, it's not as big an issue, but there's still sort of that understood, just don't talk about it, because either whether it's being religious or a lack thereof, it's kind of a contentious issue, and that's what I find in my family, and that's sort of how I handle it outside of my family. I only recently, I guess within the last couple of years, have actually begun to wear the label atheist, because it's such a loaded word. And whenever I engage with people, I'll engage with them. They'll make mention of God or something, and I'll just go, oh, okay, and just but then they'll ask. But if they ask me, well, do you believe that? No, and then, huh? I get that sort of surprise response, and the difficulty here in this area has been one of social isolation, simply because they don't know how to take you. They don't know where you're going to come from. They don't know if you're going to, if they suggest that everyone bow their heads before a meal, if you're going to stand up and loudly protest for 10 minutes, or if you're going to go on this huge thing, or if you're just going to sit there quietly. They don't know how to take you, and it's almost like that changes their whole perception of you as a person. And that's the biggest thing here is religion, particularly evangelical Protestant religion, is so ingrained in the culture here that if you don't participate in it, people are just almost like, I don't know you anymore. I thought you were a decent person. It kind of comes back to the whole morality thing. How can I trust you if you don't believe this one thing just like I do? And so that's where I've had to develop a balance with being, between being accommodating and being firebrand. And it just kind of depends on who I'm talking to and the tone of the conversation. And I around here in this particular area culturally, I have to lead with a bit of a soft step, and invite them into a conversation and present it, and I'm not going to be dishonest, but to try to present it in as non-threatening a way as I can for their benefit and not for mine. So it's but there are some social aspects to it. There's professional implications for a lot of people that I know, that they would be really they would be afraid to say that. They would be afraid to say, yes, I'm an atheist, because as you mentioned, Makisha, they would be afraid of losing their jobs, and it would be a legitimate concern. It would at the very least it would incur suspicion and distrust from their superiors, and it would cost them in some degree professionally. It may cost them a promotion, may cost them in other ways. It may not get them fired, but there will be those social sanctions that may not be as overt as they are in some other cultures and some other areas, but they're definitely there. And it's more art than science to try to navigate that, to sidestep those and sort of navigate that minefield. But at the same time, it's an interesting challenge, and it helps. I've taken it as a personal challenge to grow and adapt to that, and to accommodate that without compromising who I am as a person, and trying to stay true to that without giving too much ground. Being accommodating, sure, but being insincere, that's where I try to navigate that, and it can be really difficult sometimes in certain situations and with certain people. So that's what it's like for me, and that's coming out, and that's where it kind of stands for me. I don't really. It's not anything I really proclaim loudly because I can't. And when I find that I do post it, if I post anything or anything like that, it's met with this thunderous silence. Everybody's just, I don't know what to say to you now. So it's a balancing act, really.
Yeah, and I think I think it would be, I think it's probably worth mentioning that certainly this is just social stuff, right? Like some of this is, everybody has to do this. Everybody has to figure out how much of themselves they're going to share, whether it's religion or hobbies or, there's all kinds of things that we do that might not necessarily be in the social mainstream that everybody has to navigate and figure out. Obviously, religion tends to be fraught with so much emotional investment for people that tends to be, a much more difficult topic. But I'll just kind of toss this out there to everybody, and because I'm on my phone, I have to scroll through the faces down here to see who wants to talk, so it'll just take me a second. But have any of you experienced a situation, because one of the things that we've said occasionally in conversation, in blog posts and things, is that it's really important and useful to let people know you're an atheist when it's safe to do so. And one of the reasons for that is because people need to know that there are good people, normal people with only one head, and it's not spouting or sprouting, evil things or whatever. And people need to know that. People need to have personal relationships with atheists, so that this idea that atheists have no moral compass or that they're constantly in your face about how bad religion is, that's not going to go away if people don't know atheists who are sort of normal, nice people. So have any of you had any experiences where telling someone that you're an atheist just outright has resulted in maybe a shift in their perspective of atheism in general or atheists in particular?
Yeah, I can jump straight in with one there, actually.
Yeah, that'd be great.
The job I used to do was mentoring students at school, and a work colleague of mine was very devout Catholic. Church every Sunday, not in your face, ramming a Catholicism into your face at all, but she'd drop it into the conversation that she'd been to church with this and done this and that and the other. And we'd worked together for quite a while, and she knew, because I just said right from the get-go, well, I don't believe in all of that, so, I'm happy to listen to you talk about it, but I'm not going to engage with you and say, yeah, isn't God great? And we just left it at that. And I'd been working with her for about 6 months, and then she suddenly turned quite spontaneously to me and said, you know what, Mike, it's really, really strange. So you don't believe in God, but you're kind of one of the most spiritual persons I've ever met. And I sort of went, what do you mean spiritual? It's just, well, you're kind of like really insightful and deep, and you work with these kids and you want to sort of help them, and you've got this really deep passion in you to help these kids succeed and sort of come round to a good, calm way of thinking. And it's almost like you believe the same as me, that, like, we turn the other cheek and we treat others as we'd like to be treated, but you don't believe in God. And she seemed quite mystified by that. But I think it kind of helped to realise that you don't actually have to believe in God to actually have those same core values. I think that seemed to be kind of the way that the thing that she was acknowledging, if you see what I mean. She wasn't saying it in a kind of like, you should believe in God kind of way. She was just quite surprised that wasn't the thing that made me good, if you see what I mean. And again, not in a negative way. I think it was quite said in quite an I've learned something about people that don't believe in God kind of way, if you see what I mean. So I think that matches pretty much what Makisha was saying, really.
Yeah, I think surprise is a really common reaction that people get. Not just oh, I'm surprised that you are an atheist because I made a previous assumption, but I'm surprised that you're an atheist because, hey, you're also an okay person. And that type of surprise is I don't know. It's funny and sad at the same time. Srisha, yes.
Yeah, thanks, Makisha. I have never really had a big problem, coming out as an atheist in my family. Thankfully, that despite coming from a family who believe in rituals, like I mentioned sometime before also. But there have been some, let me just say, interesting incidents, which also have been unfortunate in a way because I had these two different occasions where I went out of home for my graduate studies, for my master's studies, and I was staying as a paying guest over there. One of my roommates was a devout Catholic, and another was a Buddhist. I mean, and initially things were all fine, and I'm the sort of a person who doesn't project myself or identify myself through one thing. I also believe in humanitarian approaches and everything, so I don't just jump on people and start speaking about myself, so I keep a guard on. As days progressed, the Christian girl, she used to read Bible and she would quote from the Bible every now and then, and I had not really a big problem about it as long as she was not encroaching my personal space. And slowly she turned the other girl who was a Buddhist and who was not a practicing Buddhist that way, also turned to Bible and start reading from it. I did not want to intervene even then and force my opinions on them for the reason that, they might take it offensive. I mean, everyone has a right to go about their belief systems or what is right and what is wrong. It was when she started throwing things around, and both these girls used to sit and watch over me while I was sleeping because they thought I was possessed by demons or something like that. Yeah, I mean, they essentially started to think I was possessed or I was having some evil spirits in me. And it was sort of a thing that, took a seedling in this Catholic girl's mind. So I heard her speaking to her mother a couple of times over the phone, where she said, there is this third roommate of mine who doesn't practice anything, and I was mostly studious, so I used to sit down with my books, study. I had a very strict schedule. I used to go running in the evenings or in the mornings whenever I found time, and I used to stay by myself. So there were times when she started to, wanted to strike a conversation with me, and I would politely tell her why certain things are sort of not okay and absurd, and it's not right to force their opinions on anybody else. It was when she started throwing things around that it really struck me that this is not right. I mean, I have to do something about it, or maybe just leave the place. And I decided on the latter. I changed the paying guest accommodation. I went to another place, and this time both my roommates were Hindus, and I am a person who doesn't follow religious customs or do not follow festivals that are so varied and so many in India. Every month you have some festival cropping up, So they used to find it weird, and they started questioning me quite a couple of times why I don't visit temples, why I don't believe in God. I told them that it's okay with my family, and they started asking me questions which were personal, and I started questioning my family. They asked me questions that were slightly uneasy to answer. So I just politely used to tell them that I need to have a proof, I need to have certain evidence in order to believe in something, and questioning has been an acceptable norm in my family. Rationalism was okay within my family, and that's how I grew up. But it becomes difficult for them. Listen, I cannot generalize this as being a coming out of atheist story for everyone in India, because people can have different stories. But this is something from a metropolitan city, as opposed to my own city, which is fairly more tolerant in viewpoints in that way. It was not at least what it was like some 30 or 40 years ago, because there is this other group that I work with over here, and I refrain from posting atheist comments online because My parents have an opinion that if somebody reads, it will have a negative impact on my, identity or how they perceive me. So they do not want me to be actively involved online, despite the fact that I have been trying to write something and make my opinion heard. So I have to resort to groups or take support from groups where you can exchange ideas without facing the bias. At least you don't get killed in the country. Your rights as a citizen are not taken away, and thankfully, uh, you know, um, there is a change in the laws of the country also. So this other group that I work with, they're octogenarians, and they basically come from a family of atheists. So they have been living in this city and propagating atheism for a very long time, almost say 100 years or so. And they have a very active group here. So apparently, and they have a social standing also. So apparently, two of the brothers, when they wanted to enroll in a Christian missionary college in within the city, they were denied a seat because you have to register yourself and declare your religion, and they wanted to declare themselves as atheists, which was not acceptable. So what their father did, who was a great social revolutionary, is go sue them in the court, put a case in the high court, and get a judgment from there, and only then his children were sort of taken in by the college, because it was supposedly the best in the city at that point in time. Things have a lot changed, but I hear such stories time and again. And I had to have I had a talk with the principal, because while in the class, because I'm a science student, people started to think that I should be religious despite being a science student. And two of my classmates went and had a word with the head of the department, saying that uh, I am I am not normal. So then I had to have a word with the principal, which was not a very happy conversation. And I just politely told the lady that, these are my personal viewpoints and I'm not enforcing that on anyone, and I would like it if nobody enforces those opinions on me. But yes, if you are going to a religious school, or if you're going to a place where a religion also forms a part of the curriculum, it can become a little difficult, which was exactly the point I was trying to bring in our other hangouts, where we were talking about parenting and kids. Because despite the family being okay with it, when you move out in the society, it becomes difficult to ascertain yourself and your rights, and move freely if you are an atheist. So I do not know. People are just biased, and they do not like to accept that there can be a different set of, let's say, belief system, even so it gets a little tricky at times. And my initial schooling was at a Hindu missionary school. So there were Fridays where we all the children were compulsorily made to sit and sing bhajans of Krishna and Rama. This is called Chinmaya Mission, which is very spread over, much like the Christian missionaries. So when I was in my schooling, in my earlier days, in my childhood, so I had to attend these classes called Bal Bihar, where we were made to sing those bhajans, despite the fact that some parents do not like their children being dragged into certain things and would like free thought. So these things become a little tricky and inevitable. And my earlier story, where I was telling you about the college, I had to forego a year, and I've come back home because I could not reason things out with them, and it was getting a lot difficult for me, because slowly everyone was starting to think that being in a Christian college, you cannot hold opinion which is different. So that was tricky, and it cost me a year, and it's not happy.
That sucks. I'm sorry about that. I think
Yeah.
I think this is why I think these sorts of conversations and hearing people's stories are helpful and really important, because there's an entire next generation of atheists coming into adulthood, and there are social media and just the internet in general is where they are. Atheist teens, this is where they're finding their community and where they're communicating even with their local friends that happen to live down the street. So I think these, sharing our stories and sharing our experiences, our advice, for lack of a better word, our wisdom, our life experience, is a good thing as shared humanity, and I think it's also a good thing so that we can impart any knowledge or experience that we have and learn from the younger kids as well. Hearing what younger kids, even preteens and younger, are experiencing. My own kids, for example, and some of their friends who are not religious, is very eye-opening and helpful for me as well. So hopefully we all continue to tell our stories. And I am wrapping up since we're a couple minutes over, but I want to give anybody last chance to have any last comments, or if you can keep them under 30 seconds or so, that'd be great. Anybody else? Okay, great. I don't necessarily want to always have the last word, so we can always go over a few minutes if anybody has anything they feel like they need to say.
I would like to say one more thing.
I saw your microphone come unmuted, so go ahead.
That in Italy, when I was younger, and I was saying that I didn't believe in God, people not just they were like shocked, but they tried very, very hard to make me change my mind. And that's something that made me very angry on them, because I am who I am, and you don't have to try your best, like try to physically bring me in place to show me that your God is real. That was sometimes when I prefer to don't speak with religious people, because for me it's just a waste of time, because I have my opinion, I believe in what I believe. If you want to believe in that, do it, be happy, it's your life. But when they try to make me believe what they believe, then that's a problem for me. And then I start to speak and I start to tell my opinion and stuff like this. I remember that once, I'm kind of different than you. You were talking about if that sometimes you should shut up and can't say that you are atheist. But for me, my atheism is one of the most important things in my life. I achieved freedom as a human being thanks to that. And if someone asks me, do you believe in God? I will say very proud, no, I'm an atheist. And I don't care if he's my boss, I don't care if he's the Pope, I will always say I'm an atheist. And I will even fight for it. I will fight for my freedom to can say, hey, I'm an atheist. And I remember that on my work in the past, there was two people, they were a couple, they were working with me. They were very nice to me all the time. And then one day they asked me, hey, are you religious, right? And I say, no. And then they were shocked. And then they asked me, how can you not be religious and you are such a good person? And I was like, why? I should be religious and to be a good person? If I'm not religious, does this mean that I'm not a good person? And then we start a conversation about that, and they were shocked. And this conversation ends when they told me that we don't come from the monkeys, and we are not mammals. They say to me that this was impossible, and they say to me, you come from the monkeys, but we don't. So in that moment, I understood that it was useless to keep talking with these people. But I'm very, very, very passionate on this and very angry on religious people for all what they did to atheists in the history and for all what they did to me. Because they always try to change my life, they changed their behavior on me, even if we were friends, and they made me always feel like I was less good, less important than them, and it was for all my life. And so when someone asks me, do you believe in God? I will always say, absolutely not. I'm an atheist, I will always be proud to tell that, no matter who this person will be.
I think it's great that we have so many people who passionately speak out for atheism, and I think the stories that we've heard today have shown that there is value in that, and if for no other reason than to just develop relationships with people while being your authentic self, and they can see that you can be an atheist, you can be a good person, you can also be an atheist, and you can be an asshole. that's also your prerogative, just like you can be a Christian or a Muslim or a Hindu or whatever. In other words, you know, we're hopefully all just people trying to do our best, and I think it's a great thing when people have the opportunity to share that with others. So I'm going to wrap up our live portion today. Thanks for joining us. Thanks everybody for sharing your stories. I know it's not always easy. I know we missed people. Everybody didn't get a chance to share. Army, do you want to? I see Nirav frantically waving his hand. Do you want to keep the live portion going a little bit?
Yeah,
I don't have a chat right now, so I can't. I might have missed some stuff.
Yeah, just for Nirav to make one more comment, and then we could wrap it up.
Okay, go ahead, Nirav.
Thanks. What I actually wanted to say, it occurred to me when Amir was talking, that there's an additional burden that atheists will face in some different cultures, where religion and national identity are kind of fused. Now, if you, I'm not sure about what experiences there might be in the Middle East, but it's like, if as a Hindu, the first thing you kind of think about the idea that Hindu actually means a native of India, the Indian subcontinent. So the moment you start, disassociating yourself from that, you're kind of even provoking people to think that, are you leaving not only religion, but are you even leaving your national identity? And that's where a lot of atheists will kind of pause, especially in Hindu culture, perhaps even in with Muslims in the Middle East. Where the sense of the Ummah and maybe the boundary between religion and nationality is not separate as it is in America or Canada, etc. So that's another little bit of social stigma that you have to face. I personally have been I was like just interested to listen to what was being said. It was so mind-blowing, the experiences, because I've been personally a little bit luckier in the sense that there have been rationalists in my family, and people know I'm a big mouth, so sometimes they don't, come up against me. And then again, there are people in my family who have pet peeves you can't go after. They have astrology. You can't criticize astrology. You can say anything you like about God, not astrology. Then there are some people who's, homeopathy. They're really fanatical about that. But they'll take whatever you got to say about God. So there's all these different boundaries. And in India, it's like it's kind of I don't know whether to be proud of it or it's just basically a fact, but it's like when you don't have an absolutist religion that's controlling like Hinduism, then you have to like they'll accept you as being an atheist as long as you don't say anything, and that's where it's like, okay, well, look, I want to express myself. And then again, there are a lot of other atheists from my older generation that have just made a kind of a pact, don't tell me about this stuff, and I'll keep my mouth shut too. That's a different environment that I've been coming from. That's all.
That's interesting, and yes, I think I would like to agree with Nirav that as long as you don't speak about your atheism very vocally in certain parts of the country, it's completely okay, and that's exactly what my family wants me to do. They do not want me to feature in the Google search lists, talking about atheism or asserting my identity as an atheist. And to a certain extent, I have sort of given in to their demands of it, because they're going to be ostracized, they're going to be stigmatized by say certain extended family members and certain sections of the society, which is not exactly comfortable. And this other group that I was talking about, they have had a lot of difficult experiences coming out as atheists. They were probably the first generation to be born atheists in this city, but they were ostracized. They were not even called into wedding ceremonies. They were not invited for happy occasions. and that gets a little tricky. So as long as you're not very vocal about it and keep your opinions to yourself, yeah, I mean, there can be cases like what I have experienced. I was never vocal about anything, but had to sort of give explanations and justify myself from time and again. It's about my identity, religious identity, which is something I believe no individual should have to be forced into. You do not have to justify yourself as being an atheist or why you are an atheist.
I'm glad that Nurav mentioned the matter of or the additional challenge of cultural identity and religion, which isn't even quite the same, because that exists to a certain degree in America as well, but it's nowhere near the same thing. And it's actually been an interesting process for me to wrap my mind around that as I've been listening to our team members from India talk about their experiences, because it's something that is so foreign to me, the idea that religion and actual identity as a person within a country is that intertwined. So that definitely adds an added complication. So I'm going to wrap up the live portion, and I actually do have to just go. But everybody else is welcome to stay. Thanks for everybody for joining us today. Thanks for our team members and anybody who's been watching. We appreciate you. Thanks to all of our atheist trailblazers who have led the way for those of us to speak out about atheism openly wherever we happen to be. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.
Bye.